1950s and 60s, many European countries were facing an epidemic of birth defects and a rise in the deaths of infants that were all caused by the drug thalidomide. Thalidomide was originally sold by Chemie Grünenthal. This tragedy resulted in triumph with new laws and requirements for drug testing. Thalidomide made shockwaves in the pharmaceutical industry and has caused drug testing to be more effective and safe. In 1946, the company Chemie Grünenthal was founded. This Western German enterprise struck what they thought was pharmaceutical gold in 1957, thalidomide. Thalidomide is a sedative hypnotic. These are medications that make the consumer calm or can act as a sleep inducer. Thalidomide was originally marketed to combat colds and allergies. In 1959, Chemie Grünenthal then found serious promise in the drug being used to combat morning sickness in pregnant women and sold it as such. The countries most affected included England and Western Germany. Not only was this during the baby boom from the Second World War, from 1946 to 1964, but due to its marketing, thalidomide sold to women all over the world. The following quote is from the untold story of the thalidomide babies. Quote, "After all, thalidomide sold at a rate of 20 million tablets a month in Germany, and a third that many in England before it was unmasked." End quote, Spencer 20. Thalidomide was often marketed as being unable to overdose on and couldn't be used for suicide attempts. This only further solidified the thought of thalidomide being safe. Thalidomide's effects on its victims were tragic to say the least. The negative legacy it left behind is what it is often remembered for. Thalidomide caused many serious birth defects from all levels of severity. Some of these include phocomelia, amelia, both of which affect the development of the limbs, and many other external deformities as well as internal malformations. According to the website Rare Diseases, thalidomide embryopathy is, quote, "Thalidomide embryopathy is characterized by phocomelia, amelia, forelimb and handplate anomalies. Other anomalies include facial hemangiomas and damages to ears, eyes, internal organs, genitalia, and heart." End quote. Rare Diseases. These birth defects were often a complete shock to the family. Some of these kids weren't only affected physically, as some were affected in terms of brain development. In the article The Untold Story of the Thalidomide Babies from 1962 by Stephen M. Spencer was reporting what he saw in the babies. Quote, "Most of the youngsters are mentally normal." End quote. 20. Not only were many of these kids permanently afflicted by these ailments, but some didn't survive at all. In an article by the National Center for Biotechnology Information, the following was said regarding thalidomide embryopathy. Quote, "Infant mortality in babies with severe thalidomide embryopathy is as high as 40%, quite likely due to internal organ damage. Furthermore, many babies with these malformations are likely to have died in utero and been miscarried or stillborn." End quote. Thalidomide-induced teratogenesis, history and mechanisms. Another issue that thalidomide caused was peripheral neuropathy. Peripheral neuropathy is a painful sensation caused by nerve damage. In a write-up that was also written by the National Center for Biotechnology Information, peripheral neuropathy can also be caused by thalidomide. This was typically more of an issue for consumers using this medication for an extended period of time. This report was based off of a study from 2007 to 2012 and showed that patients who took thalidomide for over a year were much more likely to develop peripheral neuropathy. High-dose thalidomide increases the risk of peripheral neuropathy in the treatment of ankylosing spondylitis. While thalidomide's consequences were severe, it forced the pharmaceutical industry a chance to improve the way drugs were distributed. While thalidomide may be remembered for its devastating effects, the congenital defects resulted in a change to requirements the medications must meet to be sold in the U.S. This change, known as the Kefauver-Harris Amendments, forced drug companies to have more clinical trials and results in regard to side effects.
Visited on families in Germany, and to provide both administrative and legislative safeguards to lessen the chance of such action coming in this country again.
In an article from FDA.gov, the following was now needed for a drug to be sold in America. Quote, "Require the manufacturers prove the effectiveness of drug products before they go on the market and afterwards report any serious side effects. Require the evidence of effectiveness be based on adequate and well-controlled clinical studies conducted by qualified experts. Study subjects would be required to give their informed consent." End quote. Kefauver-Harris Amendments revolutionized drug development. These new additions to the regulations of the FDA made the pharmaceutical industry safer in America. This act became official on October 10th of 1962, shortly after thalidomide's side effects became known. This mandate helped to prevent another tragedy like thalidomide from ever happening again. Immediately after the drug was released and its effect on a fetus was discovered, many realizations came to light. Thalidomide was an effective drug and it did what it claimed to do, but it resulted in life-changing outcomes for all its intended audiences. These include peripheral neuropathy, as well as many tragic birth defects it caused and the ensuing trauma to the unexpecting mothers. One of these included Suzanne Copeland van de Putte. She was a 24-year-old mother. Her story and trial were detailed in a 1962 article from Time.
The baby's aunt, her grandmother, her father, Jean-Noël van de Putte, and the mother who confessed to poisoning her harmless baby with barbiturate.
Dr. Andre Herpin was the man who officiated the death certificate, and he said this according to the article, quote, "If I had been the only one to know about the killing, I would have written death from natural causes," end quote. Thalidomide homicide. This showed how morally and ethically confusing this must have been for all involved. The trial ended in all parties being acquitted. Another mother who had to make a life-altering decision regarding her pregnancy was Sherry Chesson. Miss Chesson's story and struggle was written by Linda Greenhouse in an article from the New York Times. As of 1962, Miss Chesson had 4 kids and was excitedly expecting another. Miss Chesson was from Arizona, and her husband got her a pill containing thalidomide while away on a trip. When Miss Chesson heard the news of thalidomide being able to harm a fetus, she decided to terminate the pregnancy. Due to her inability to get an abortion performed in America, she traveled to Sweden to get one performed. Miss Chesson was grief-stricken over her loss of a pregnancy that she wanted. Miss Chesson and Miss van de Putte both felt that the only option was to not have a baby at all, and this was because of thalidomide. Thalidomide in the long run has shown to be positive, especially in the last decade, with new developments in the treatment of diseases have been seen. Today, thalidomide is used for a type of cancer called multiple myeloma. This affects the blood. Dr. Chase Peterson made this discovery after his grave diagnosis. This was detailed in the documentary Thalidomide, A Wonder Drug. If Dr. Peterson hadn't had this drug, he would have passed away. This was in 1997 and is still used today with the same purpose. Another debilitating disease that thalidomide can be used to treat is erythema nodosum leprosum, or ENL. This is a serious complication caused by leprosy. In the mini-documentary, The Shadow of the Thalidomide Tragedy, it shows how its use for ENL first started. Dr. Sheskin was treating a patient in Jerusalem with ENL who couldn't sleep. He was given thalidomide because it could be used as a tranquilizer. His symptoms began clearing up, and Dr. Sheskin knew he had discovered a use for this horrific drug. Thalidomide also helped spark another long-term change, the advancement of prosthetics. This change came as a result of the spike in children needing prosthetics that couldn't use what was available. This is shown in an evolution in the care of a child amputee, 1966. Quote, "The impact of the thalidomide tragedy focused attention again on the need to improve prosthesis, especially when malformed limbs or the complete absence thereof made it difficult to fit conventional suspension and power cable systems. One person who benefited from this was 16-year-old Olivia Anderson."
A good idea, thinking that I might get hurt because I wasn't settled in at that time, but now I'm doing sports that I really enjoy, like cheer and tennis. It hasn't stopped me. It doesn't stop me. Yeah.
This interview with Olivia shows how the advancement of prosthetics has made her life easier and allows her to do the things she loves. Thalidomide resulted in many new advances, improving the lives of people generations after it was first introduced. This wonder drug helped to promote and force the new strides in the pharmaceutical community, bettering the life of people now and for years to come.